Today, what we're going to talk about is a little Greek mythology. And the reason why we're doing this is, plus, we're doing something a little bit new, and plus, I am gone. I know you're going to miss me, but actually, I have to go to an appointment for my wife this afternoon, so that's why I am gone. Okay. Now, I didn't want to deprive you of this handsome, amazing face, so I went ahead and recorded this for you to go over the social studies lesson, and we'll talk about this when we get back tomorrow because you're going to be just amazed at how awesome this video is. I know it is. And you're probably falling out of your chairs right now. Right now. There went one right there. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is Theseus and the Minotaur and how it kind of ties in with the lightning thief. Now, this is a little bit of Greek mythology. And then plus, since we are Meeker's Minotaurs, this is going to kind of shed some light on why we're Minotaurs. Not because we're beastly creatures. I might be a beastly creature, but you guys aren't. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. So let's get going. All right. First of all, we need to talk about where this mythology kind of started out. And it started out in the island of Crete. And we talked about Crete last week. It's this little island that is down to the southeast of the mainland of Greece. And we're going to talk a little bit about that culture, and then we'll get into the mythology. All right? All right, this is the island of Crete. It is beautiful, as you can see from the picture. Beautiful blue seas. Also gives you an idea of the terrain that we talked about, how that the Greek terrain is kind of rocky, mountainous, things like that, hard to grow things. So this kind of gives you an idea of what it's like. Now, the people that lived in Crete, they were called the Minoans, and the Minoans were actually named after a great king of theirs that also shows up quite a bit in Greek mythology. His name was King Minos, so that's why he was called the Minoans. And the Minoans were actually pretty wealthy in ancient times. They were a great trading post. They traded with the Egyptians, the Mesopotamians, the mainland Greek people. So they were pretty wealthy, and they showed it by some of the palaces that they had built, and they were known throughout the ancient world by some of their palaces. And if you look at this one, this is only the remains of one. It's the Palace of Knossos, but it's still pretty impressive. And this is how it would have kind of looked during the ancient times, and the very bright colors and things like that. This is one of the rooms actually in the palace. This is the Queen's Chamber, and it had something called a fresco in it. And it's basically how you make a fresco is you take plaster, kind of like the stuff that they use for drywall mud, if you've ever seen that. And they don't let it dry totally until they start painting on it. And that's what this is. And this is of dolphins, as you can see. Dolphins are pretty awesome, and evidently the queen was pretty fond of them. And you can see all the bright colors and things that are on that. That is original. That has not been touched up. So if you ever go to the Palace of Knossos on the island of Crete, you can see this. All right, this is a mural that's also found in that palace of a guy doing backflips over a bull, which is pretty impressive. I don't do backflips over a bull, but what they actually did, and this is kind of symbolic of their culture. They thought that bulls were sacred, and the reason why has to go with some Greek mythology. Now, Zeus, remember Zeus, the king of lightning and thunder, the god of lightning and thunder, king of the gods, the Olympian gods? Well, he actually fell in love with a mortal named Europa. And Europa was actually was the king, son ended up being King Minos, which the Minoans are named after. What happened was Zeus fell in love with Europa. She lived on the island of Crete, which is far away from the Greek mainland and Mount Olympus. So he came down from Mount Olympus, and to cross the Mediterranean Sea to Crete, he actually turned into a white bull. Now, I don't know if bulls are good swimmers, but that would not have been my first choice to swim across the sea, but that's what happened. That's what the myth was. So he turned into a white bull, swam across the sea, and got with Europa. And they had 3 kids. One of them was King Minos, who was who the Minoans were named after. Okay. Now, that brings us to the Minotaur mythology. And actually what that is King Minos actually had a son. And what happened is he went to Athens, which is on the mainland of Greece, and they had something that is kind of like the Olympic Games. It was kind of a precursor, kind of happened before the official Olympics started back in ancient Greece. But there were some games. His son went to those games to compete, and he accidentally was killed during those games. And whenever King Minos found that his son was killed, he was pretty furious about it. So he held the Athenians responsible for it. So to kind of keep from going to war, they came up with a compromise. And this compromise was that the Athenians had to send 7 of their own, 7 young men and women, to Crete every year and go into something called a labyrinth. And what a labyrinth is just basically a huge maze. And in this maze was a half man, half bull creature called a Minotaur. And what they had to do is they had to go through this maze and try to survive and find their way out without being killed by the Minotaur. Well, as you could probably think, as awesome as that guy looks, you can see the bull guy, Minotaur guy, he kind of works out. None of them ever survived. Now, this happened for about 3 years. And on the third year, the guy on the right, his name was Theseus. Yeah, he works out too. You can tell he does his crunches and his barbell curls. Hopefully he can say that. And he was actually the prince of Athens, and he was tired of having to send their people to get killed by the Minotaur. So what he did is he went to Crete and he said to King Minos, I'm going to kill the Minotaur in the labyrinth, and then that way we don't have to send any more of our Athenians to get killed by the Minotaur. And King Minos kind of laughed because he's like, yeah, whatever. Even if you did kill the Minotaur, Theseus, you're going to be trapped in that maze, and you'll never get out. So try your best. And Theseus actually went in there, but before he went in there, he actually met Minos' daughter, the princess. And those two kind of fell in love. Now, she did not want him to die or get lost in the maze, so she suggested that he use some string, that he unravel it as he's going through the labyrinth. That way, if he does kill the Minotaur, he could find his way out and escape. And that's actually what he did. He had a pretty epic battle with the Minotaur and actually killed him, and followed the string that he had laid down as he went through the labyrinth and got out, and actually ran away with the princess, which didn't make Minos very happy at all. Now, before Theseus had left, his father told him, "Hey, I don't know if you're going to come back or not, but if you do, send your ship, and I'm going to give you 2 sets of sails, one white one, one black one. I'm going to watch for you to come back, and if I see your ship on the coast, I'm going to look at the sails. Fly the white sails if you survived. Fly the black ones if you died." Okay? So Theseus was on his way back, and actually what happened was the princess, after they stopped off at an island on the way, she actually got lost. And Theseus didn't realize it until he was almost home, and when he realized it, he was so upset that the princess was gone that he forgot to change the sails from black to white. Now, his father was named Aegeus, and he was watching for his son, and he saw the black sails, and he thought, oh my gosh, my son has died. And he was so grief-stricken that he actually jumped into the sea and killed himself, which was kind of a bummer. Not kind of a bummer, it was a bummer. And that's why they called part of where he jumped into the Aegean Sea, named after Aegeus, King Aegeus. And now, in Greek mythology, the heroes like Theseus, usually it doesn't work out well for them. And there's some tragedy involved, and that was part of the tragedy. And eventually, most of the demigods or heroes in Greek mythology end up dying, or something bad happening to them, and that's kind of what happened. So, but that's the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, kind of the short version of it, and how it ties into the Lightning Thief, because remember, the last chapter that we read on Friday, Percy, he was fighting half man, half bull. Could it be connected? Don't know. I'll have to find out when you read today. All right? So until tomorrow, I will see you then. Goodbye. I'm going to keep saying goodbye until I stop this thing.